Welcome guys, and it's good to have you at the ETU, and our meeting rooms are always available for IPAN for any meetings that you want to have in the future. Just to kick off, by way of introduction to the ETU's position on uranium and nuclear energy and our stance on it. So I'm the State Secretary of the Electrical Trades Union, Peter Ong's my name. The ETU in Australia and also this branch has had a long-standing position against uranium mining and also the use of nuclear energy. That goes back to when our members came back from World War II and saw the effects of Hiroshima, and they vowed that they certainly didn't want to see that happen again in any conflict around the world. But they brought that to sub-branch meetings and to national conferences to put in resolutions against the use of nuclear energy and the mining of uranium for that reason. They felt very strongly against it because they'd seen the worst uses of uranium and nuclear energy. So we have had bans on uranium mining in Australia ever since World War II. And we continue to revisit those arguments at our national conferences every year. Sometimes there's a bit of debate depending on the changing tides, if you like, but generally it's all one-sided, and we've always reaffirmed our commitment against uranium mining and the use of nuclear energy. So what we have in place at the moment is that it sometimes gets very difficult because we've got long-standing members who sometimes are forced into a position where they have to go and work at somewhere like Olympic Dam, or the last big blue we had over it was at Ranger Mine in the Northern Territory. And our position is this, that we will not organise or attend any uranium site or nuclear energy plant. I think we've only got one Lucas Heights in Australia at the moment, thank God, other than the uranium mines, but a nuclear energy plant. But we will not organise on those areas, and we're very clear with our members on that, and we try and educate our members about why we don't want them to work on these sites. But it does, sometimes people are forced into a position to put bread on the table that they have to work for periods of time that it was at Ranger and also at Olympic Dam. So the obvious thing for us is that we need to campaign in the first instance to stop these projects from going ahead, because it's a lot harder for us than to argue with our membership about not going there if they're forced to go there, and then to argue with our membership about, we're forced to go and work on these jobs because we've nowhere else to work, and now you're leaving us to the wolves, if you like, because you're refusing to organise and look after us. And it is a difficult position, but it's one that we've taken a pretty hard line on. We just say, that's the stance. You're welcome to go and join another union if you want. And today, certainly at the Ranger mine, we had a fair bit of arguing with our members around that. Some of them didn't want to work there, and we got them jobs elsewhere in Gove, in the Northern Territory. Others got upset with us and resigned from the union, and that's fine. And others just put their dues on hold, but still had to work there anyway because they had nowhere else to go. So that's always been our stance. But for us, campaigning is the essential thing. There has to be a broader campaign to stop these projects from going ahead. And we just resolved that again at our national conference last week down in Sydney. We had the debate again. We had some guest speakers down there. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I can certainly give you that information. But they were really, really knowledgeable and gave some great presentations. And the debate again for us was really only about, do we leave our members out to dry if they choose to go and work on these projects? And yes, it was resolved that we will. But it was more of a push into the activism and campaigning before these projects go ahead, which comes into play with what we're talking about today, with not only AUKUS and the announcements of nuclear submarines, which will more than likely, I would think, be based in the construction of those in and around South Australia, but also now the talk of an East Coast submarine base, which I think they're looking at about $10 billion at the moment, and it's more than likely at least a 20-year project to get that going. Now, as Annette mentioned, Newcastle's been identified, Port Campbell and Brisbane. I'm not sure if any of, I mean, we all know, us in the room know that none of them are suitable because they just shouldn't be doing it. But certainly environmentally and the amount of domestic houses and all the rest of it, neither of those or any of those sites are suitable to build a nuclear submarine base. But like I said, the main thing for us is to try and stop that. And the only way you're going to do that is to organise a groundswell to campaign against them, to get it in the face of whatever government's in play at the time. And obviously we're heading into a federal election and we hope to get rid of this government because it's the worst government we've seen in a long time. And it's interesting to note that after the last 26 years of federal government, we've only had a Labor government in for 6 of those 26. So it's about time we put a Labor government back in, although I'm not real confident on their stance around these things either. And I think, again, that's why the need for grassroots campaigning and build a campaign to get in their face and to put pressure on whatever government's in that this is not acceptable in Australia and we're not going to accept it. That'll obviously, you know, we're very good at campaigning. It's something we've had to do for a long time. Our last major one obviously was the Not for Sale campaign, and that started off small and built into a large grassroots campaign across the state, which not only turfed a Labor government out, but then a LNP government that was thought to be in for the next 10 years, we got rid of them in one term. So it can certainly be done, but it's a matter of involving the community and making sure that it's in their face, and it's one of the most important things to them. And the unfortunate thing is at the moment, whether you like it or not, is that when you come out and start talking about anti-uranium and anti-nuclear, people straight away just see you as greenies, and they're used to those images on the telly of people hanging out in the middle of Australia, hippies and all the rest of it. I can see all you hippies in the room. But that is a demographic that people straight away look to, and that's not the case. And I think that's why the involvement of the trade union movement is important. Not that we have a great reputation at the moment. Certainly, this federal government's tried to muddy us up, but it's important that you get a cross section of the community involved in this and try and instill in them the importance of why we can't have this happening in Australia. And we still get a lot of, even our own members coming at us about, you've got to get with the times, you know, nuclear energy is the way to go, nuclear power stations. But they're the ones that are uneducated. There is no need for a nuclear power station. The long-term effects of the waste, the long leading time for even to build a power station, enormous cost to build them. It's ridiculous when you've got so many other forms of renewable energy, the likes of solar and wind and hydro, in a country like Australia. So there is a great campaign that can be built around knocking these on the head, and I think it's just a matter of sitting down, getting like-minded organisations and unions together. I know the MUA will get on board with this fairly quickly, and certainly if you look at the areas that have been identified, they're where all their members are now. The likes of Port Campbell in Wollongong is a strong union town and has a large MUA membership base. Newcastle obviously is a very strong union town and has a large MUA union base. And the positioning of where they would build it in Brisbane, although they haven't come out and said yet, it's either got to be Fisherman's Island. I mean, it can't be where the Navy base currently is, and I didn't realise this until I looked it up, is at Bulimba. So I'd love to see them build a nuclear submarine base.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
It would be good.
I mean, it
We
wouldn't.
could build a campaign, wouldn't we, quite easily with the residents?
It's like we used to say, yeah, where are we going to put this nuclear dump in your backyard? Let's put it at Potts Point or wherever it is.
Yeah. That's right, they haven't chosen Sydney.
No, they have not.